Hi, I'm Amy Chappell from Amorini Designs, and today I'm here at Riley Blake to show you my favorite tutorial for making backs for pillows. It's my favorite tutorial because I love how clean the back of it looks, and it hides the zipper so you don't have any of the metal pieces. So if your kids are rambunctious like mine and they like to throw pillows instead of lean on them, you don't have any metal pieces exposed that you have to worry about. It's a great way to create a back for a pillow, whether you are doing a turned pillow cover or if you want to add binding to it. You can use it to kind of mix and match and create your own pillow however you want. It's a really fast, easy tutorial, and I'm really excited to share it with you today. Let's walk through some of the things you're going to need to make your pillow back. We're going to need your pillow front. You can have it quilted, you can just use regular fabric. However you're doing it, you'll want to have that finished so you know the dimensions that you're going to be working with. You're going to need a zipper, and we'll talk about the size of the zipper when we get to the math part of this. Don't worry, it's easy math, but you'll need a zipper. You're going to need your cutting tools to cut your fabric to the right size, pins, scissors, and all of your regular sewing instruments. And then you're going to need fabric for your back. And then you're going to need either an accent fabric if you want the cover for your zipper to kind of stand out and be another design element to your pillow, or of the same fabric of your back if you kind of just want the whole thing to disappear. It's totally another design choice you get to make in this process. So now that we have all of the things that we need, one last thing that is helpful but not necessary is a zipper foot for your sewing machine. So if you have one, it's great. Sometimes it makes installing that zipper a little bit more straightforward and clean. If you don't have one, I'm usually too lazy to bother pulling mine out, so you can totally do it without one if you don't have one. So now that we've gone over all of the things that we're going to need, let's get started making our pillow back. The first thing that we want to talk about is the math. Now, like I said, you're going to need your pillow front first, and then we're going to decide how big of fabric pieces we need for the back. Typically what I do is I measure the size of my pillow front. So in my case, I have a 20.5 inch by 20.5 inch. I'm going to divide that by 2. So I have a 10.25 inch by 20.5 inch. And I'm going to need 2 of those, one for the top, one for the bottom. If you want your pillow zipper to be somewhere other than that, you just need the 2 pieces to add up to the total height of your pillow. So if you want your zipper fudged a little bit towards the top, then say you do an 8 inch and a 12.5 inch. As long as you're coming out with 20.5 inches or whatever the size of your pillow front is, then you're going to be good to go. Now you're also going to need one piece of fabric that is 2.5 inches wide by the width of your pillow. So in this case, I have one that's 2.5 inches wide by 20.5 inches long. And then you're going to press that one in half along the length. This is going to be the piece that covers your zipper. So you can see on this pillow here, I actually, because I was working with these 2.5 inch wide strips of fabric, I had some left over, so I just took that piece and pressed it in half for the back. And I love that it adds just another little fun pop of color and interest to the pillow. I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside so that we have some room to work so I can show you here. Now on this one, I just used a regular one simple piece of fabric, but I wanted it to pop just a little bit, so I used an accent fabric, and that helps it to stand out too. All right, now that we've got those out of the way, we are just about ready to finish to start assembling our pillow back. There's one last thing that we need to talk about, and that is the length of our zipper. You need a zipper that is at least the width of your pillow minus 2 inches. There is some play here, so it's not like if your pillow is 20.5 inches wide, you have to go find an 18.5 inch long zipper. We're going to be adding some fabric to the ends of it, so you can work with different sizes of zippers, but you don't want to work with a zipper that's too small. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself trying to shove like a 20-inch pillow form through an 8-inch hole, and you're going to really be unhappy with yourself at that point. So you want to find one, a good rule of thumb is about 2 inches shorter than the width of your pillow form. Or you can see here that my zipper is actually quite a bit longer than that. And especially if you're working with a nylon coil zipper, it's really easy to adjust that length. I really like working with the nylon zippers as opposed to like a metal zipper because one, it's cheaper and you're hiding the zipper anyway, so you're not gonna see it. And also, you don't have to worry about sewing over metal things with your sewing machine, which there's nothing more stressful than sewing over metal bits and shattering your sewing machine needle. So I really like the nylon coil zippers for that. The last little bit of fabric that we're going to need for this project are our little fabric tabs we're going to sew to the ends of our zippers. They need to be 1 inch wide, and I typically make them about 2 inches long. Again, we're playing around with things here. We're not hard and fast, so you do have some flexibility, but 1 inch wide, which is about the width of your zipper, and about 2 inches will give you some flexibility to make sure that you're getting your zipper about the right width. There's a couple of reasons I like to add these fabric tabs to the end of your zipper. The first reason is if you're working with a shorter zipper, you can make it work with what you've got. But the other reason I like to do it is it reduces the bulk of your zipper teeth out of the sides of your pillow. So whether you're adding binding, you don't want to have to try to sew your binding over the zipper teeth, or if you're doing a turned pillow cover, you want those side seams to lay nice and flat. And if you're trying to bend your zipper coil, then it's going to give you kind of awkward angles. So I just remove zipper teeth out of my side seams altogether, and we do that by adding these little fabric tabs. So now that we have our zipper tabs, we're gonna have our zipper cover piece pressed in half, and we have our top and our bottom, we're ready to start assembling our zipper back, or our pillow back. I am working with some Lori Holt fabrics. These are Be Vintage fabrics with a few little other random basics mixed in. So I'm gonna set this aside so that we can bring up our iron and we can get started making our pillow back. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to add the tabs to the end of our zipper. I usually start at the end with this little metal tab that's the very end of our zipper because it's just a nice reference point, and I really want to take that metal tab out. We've already talked about me and my distaste for sewing over metal bits. So the first thing I always do is get rid of that. To do that, I'm going to take my first fabric tab and I'm going to place it right sides together, right on top of my zipper tape, and usually I just line it right up with that metal tab to just give me a nice starting point. And then I'm just going to pin that little tab on top, and then I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew across it using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. One tip that I have right here is when you are going over the teeth of your the actual coil part of your zipper, back stitch 2 to 3 times. That way that zipper tape is secured really well to this piece of fabric, because you don't want to have those stitches loosen and then have the end of your zipper come loose and pull your zipper pull right off. Don't ask me how I know that. So I really recommend back stitching over those teeth to make sure. So we're gonna come over here to our machine, and it doesn't have to be exactly a 1/4 inch, but it's helpful. Let me move that over. Okay, once I have that tab sewn on, again, you notice me back stitching there, then I am just going to cut off the rest of that zipper tape and that metal tab. You can use scissors for this, or I get a nice straight edge with that. Then we're going to fold over that tab and then just do an edge stitch to secure that and give it a nice finished look. You can press it if you want, but I usually find it's not necessary. Okay, so now we have the first edge of our zipper done. Now this next part is where we are going to create the opening that we're going to be putting our pillow through. So we want to keep a couple of things in mind here. The first is we want to make sure we're giving ourselves as much room as we can to squish that pillow form inside of our pillow. But we also want to make sure that we're not running our zipper into the side seams. So what you need to do is we're going to open up our zipper so that our pull is in the middle here, because you don't want to cut off the pull and then have no way to open your zipper. And then I am going to just use the lines of my cutting mat, and I'm going to make it so that my opening here that I'm going to create using this other fabric tab is going to end so that it's the width of my pillow. So in my case, I am starting here and I want to come over and measure the 20.5 inches. So I'm going to end here, but that is where I want my sewn down, folded over, finished off fabric to land. So I'm going to line up my fabric here where I want it to end. And then I'm just going to flip it over so that I make sure that this opening between my two fabric tabs is the width of my pillow form, or the width of my pillow cover, minus 1.5 inches or so, however much length I've left here on the fabric. Now, like I said, as long as you are creating an opening that's, that couple of inches shorter than the width of your pillow form, the length of your fabric tabs isn't going to matter. We'll cut those off at the end when we go to put the front and the back together. So if you want to be more generous with the length of your fabric, the biggest thing that you want to make sure you're doing is being generous as you can with the opening of your zipper. So I'm going to line mine up here. I am giving myself about 17.5 inches between the end of this fabric and the end of the other end here. And this is where you're really going to want to make sure you're pinning, because you have these two loose ends of your zipper. You want to make sure that they stay lined up with the edges of your fabric tab here. So again, I'm going to make sure that the tab of that fabric, or the sides of the fabric, is lined up with that tab. And then just pull it around and make sure that you've got it lined up on both sides. And then you're going to, again, take this to your machine and sew it down about 1/4 inch. Again, it's not, super precise here. But again, you do want to make sure that you are back stitching to make sure that those zipper teeth in both sides are secure and going to be nice and stuck right there. Now, before I fold this back over, I am going to go ahead and again trim off all of this extra zipper tape. I don't need it anymore. So I'm just going to line that up and then again fold this over. You can press it if you want. I just wing it at my machine. This part gets hidden. Oh. All right, and now we have our zipper all ready to go. So we are going to attach it first to our bottom fabric piece. So if there is any directionality to the fabric that you're using for the back of your pillow cover, you want to start with the bottom piece. You'll set it right side up so that it's facing you. And then you're going to take your zipper tape, and I usually like to close it just so that I know where the pull end is. You can always turn your zipper one way or the other, and but to me it always makes sense. I always open it from left to right and that kind of thing. So if there's any kind of that with you as well, I lay it on top, and then I'm going to put my zipper tape right sides together so the pull is face down towards the fabric. And you want to just make sure that you're lining it up so that the opening is centered over your fabric. So like I said, I've got a little extra fabric on both sides. It's totally fine. We're just going to cut that off when we get to the end. And to start sewing, what I want to do is I'm going to pull my zipper pull out of the way and just take this first side and pin a few inches so that I can move my zipper pull out of my way as I'm sewing, and then I can keep it lined up all the way across. So I'm gonna just pin a couple of inches here. And this is where I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the foot, put on my zipper foot. And then I'm gonna start sewing using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, when I come to where I've finished pinning, I'm going to lift up my presser foot a little bit more. Let's see if I can do this here. And then I'm going to take my zipper pull and I'm going to slide it right past. You want to make sure, backing up just a step, make sure that your needle stays in the down position so that your fabric isn't shifting on you. And then I'm just going to slide my zipper pull right past my needle all the way to the end of where I've already sewn. And that way the rest of my zipper tape is nice and flat, and then I can just keep the edge of my zipper tape and the edge of my fabric lined up and finish sewing across the width of my pillow back here. So now I have my zipper sewn down, and I'm going to flip it over and take this to my iron, and then I'm going to press the fabric away from the zipper teeth here. I'm trying to keep my zipper teeth flat, and I'm just going to press across there. And then I will take this back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do an edge stitch across that. So I actually have one already sewn on here. So it's already sewn down, and I've done my edge stitch across here. And now we're going to add the top part of our zipper. Or the top part of our pillow back. The first thing you're gonna do, again, you're gonna have it fabric up towards you, and then you're going to take your folded in half, 2.5 inch wide strip. You're gonna line up the raw edges of this, not the fold edge, the raw edges with the top of your zipper. And then you're also going to take your top fabric piece and you're gonna line up the bottom of the top piece with the top of your zipper. So again, this doesn't have any directionality to it, so there really isn't a top or a bottom, but if you are using fabric that has directionality, so in order for me to kind of visually make sure that I'm lining things up the way I want, I will line it up so that it's right side up facing me, and then I'm gonna flip it over so that I make sure that that doesn't get turned in my sewing at all. There's nothing more disappointing than sewing a whole seam and then realizing it was upside down. So I'm going to take all of these and line them up. Again, I'm gonna start off by moving my zipper pull out of the way, and I'm gonna line up the 2 raw edges of my folded strip, the bottom of my top piece, and the top of my zipper. And then again, I wanna make sure that I'm Gonna pin those so they all stay lined up. It's quite a few layers here, so take your time, make sure you got them all in line. And you don't need to do a long length of here, just enough to sew past so that you can move your zipper pull out of the way. And then again, finish by keeping everything lined up the rest of the way. So we're gonna take this to our machine. Sew through where we've pinned, have our presser foot come up, and then I'm gonna reach in between these layers and I'm gonna find my zipper pull so it's kind of hidden under all these layers of fabric, and I'm gonna push it, slide it, see if I can show you, it's under here, slide it right out of the way. Sorry, I think I folded over some fabric while I was trying to slide my zipper pull. All right. Okay, so I'm going to show you, you can see the zipper pull right here. So it's up and out of the way of all of the rest of these seams, and then I'm just going to, by hand, kind of make sure that I have my zipper, my flap that's hiding my zipper, and my top all lined up, and then I'm just going to keep feeding this the rest of the way through. All right, now we're going to take this to our iron, but we're just going to fold up just the top piece. So we're going to leave the flap facing down over the zipper, and we're just going to press the top of our pillow back away from that zipper. And then the final step here is we're just going to, again, take this to our machine and just sew an edge stitch right across the top. You may need to move your zipper pull out of the way. All right, our pillow back is all the way finished. Now, this is where you can decide what style, how you want to attach it to your pillow front. If you want to do binding, I put my fabric, or my pillow front face down, then I put my pillow back right sides up. Then I will take it and do a basting stitch all the way around and then sew my binding on like you do any kind of quilt or other project. Or you can, if you want to skip the binding, you can put your pillow front right side up. Then you put your pillow back so that they are right sides together. And then you're just going to sew around a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. A lot of times with pillows, I like to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That does two things. It lets the pillow form be a little bit overstuffed. So this is 20.5 inches wide. If I do a 1/2 inch, then it's 19.5 inches wide, and I'm shoving a 20-inch pillow form in there. So it's a little fuller and more firm. The other thing that the 1/2 inch does is it just gives it nice and secure and helps everything to lay nice and flat, as opposed to a 1/4 inch feels almost a little narrow sometimes when you're talking about a pillow cover. But the last thing I want to make sure that you're doing either way when you're doing it is, especially if you're doing the right sides together without the binding, before you start sewing, make sure you open your zipper so that you can turn it right side out. So you'll open your zipper, put them right sides together, sew all the way around, and then you'll just turn it out right through the zipper, and then you can stuff it and your pillow form is done. So I love making hidden zipper pillow backs. It's my favorite way to finish off pillows. It's nice and easy and straightforward. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, I hope you'll join me over on my personal YouTube channel, which is A. Marooney Designs. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook, again at A. Marooney Designs. Thanks so much for having me today. Enjoy making pillows.